Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing okay out there. It's been pretty tough for a lot of us, caregivers of all types. And I'm going to go over with you today about how to be a good caregiver, learn about should you be a caregiver, caregiver burnout, how to help yourself so you don't crash and burn, and some resources out there. So I'm Nancy, the nurse practitioner, and I'm here to talk to you today about, first of all, what is a caregiver? Okay, if you're watching this, you're probably a caregiver. You're probably either taking care of your spouse, your child who's disabled, you're taking care of, you're an aide and you're taking care of somebody in their home. And duties are varied, depending on chronic illnesses, mental illness, disabilities, or old age. We are all taking care of somebody if we're a caregiver. It could mean meal preparation. It can mean taking care of bathing and dressing. It can take care of diapering or taking care of their skin and wound care. And maybe you are a power of attorney and you're talking on behalf of your parent or your spouse, or managing their medication, or all of the above. And believe me, I've seen a lot because I've taken care of people in homes where they've changed and the family had to adapt and change with them. So I'm going to be a caregiver soon myself. As a nurse practitioner doing house calls for 40 years, I understand what happens in the home, and I've seen a lot. And because of that, I was able to write a book to help with tips and tools for everyone. And a caregiver is also taking care of yourself. And being at 70 and taking care of yourself is just as difficult as being 90. And you don't want to fall down those basement stairs in flip-flops. And you don't want to have any problems where it gives you permanent damage or illness. So we'll talk about the book in the end, but I want to make sure you know that the point of the book was for crisis prevention and to keep us all well so that we have a quality of life, not just a quantity of life. So my mother-in-law is moving in June, and we live in a ranch, and we are already thinking ahead about what we're going to do. So she's going to move into a spare bedroom with a bay window off the back garden, which she'll get to look at. And I could see her morphing in that room as time goes on. I mean, she is 88. She has some difficulty walking. She is hard of hearing, but she's very alert. But when you're 88, anything can happen. And she's widowed. So, we just need to make sure that we're ready for the next step. Her daughter, Donna, who's my husband's sister, is going to move in with us. She's going to come, she's going to retire, and she's going to take one of the other bedrooms. And this way we're all together because she's single and we could all support each other. And we all get along. And that's really important because if you don't get along, it's going to be a long haul. So should you be a caregiver to somebody who's elder? The first thing to think about is time. Luckily for me, I am working from home and I will be here to be able to help out. And that will mean time because you don't know what kind of time is going to get involved as time goes on. And if you need to get an aide, then that might be able to help some of that time that you need to be away. And it's something to think about. And you also want to be, like we said, available for changes and thinking about changes. So being that we're in a ranch, I can see us wheeling mom down the hallway if we have to because she's not able to walk very well due to her neuropathy anymore. And everything's right outside the house. It's easy to put a little ramp on and whatnot. So we're thinking like that. If we had to, we could have done a mother-daughter or something like that, but that's expensive, and usually the older adults don't necessarily have that money to help you build that on your house. So you have to look at the finances of the people getting involved as well. My cousin Rosemary was a caregiver for many years. My grandfather had a stroke, and I remember going to visit him in the Bronx, New York, and leaning over his hospital bed, railing, and I was like maybe 7, and it was a Sunday dinner in the Italian family, and we would go see Grandpa. And she told me that she was a teenager when this happened, before she was married, that her father had a stroke. He couldn't speak. He was paralyzed on one side. And so she would read to him and she would be with him. And since then, she got married. Aunt Mary and Aunt Annette were lived into their hundreds, and they all lived together in another state and brought their husbands with them, and she took care of them there as well. So Aunt Mary died a couple of years ago. Aunt Annette died at 103 just this March, and she was their caregiver for probably like 30 to 40 years, which is amazing that one person was able to do a lot of this herself. And not everybody's made to be a caregiver, and it's important to know if you are not able to be a caregiver. So let's go over some other things that I want to make sure you know about. You know, risk factors for caregiver burnout. I mean, burnout is massive. I had this one patient who her husband was taking care of her. He was probably 5 years older. They were both in their 80s. They did have support. They did have family nearby, but he didn't take care of himself. He didn't go for doctor's appointments, and he was taking care of his wife with dementia, who could not do much for herself, and as actually nothing for herself. And he had a massive stroke and he died, which left her with the children taking care of her and moving in 24-hour aides. You know, he was her primary caregiver, and she noticed that he was gone because that was her husband. It was very sad. And she's still alive now, and it's 15 years later. So that's pretty heavy on the family. So they had to be ready for that sort of change. So burnout can be determined by the severity of the person's needs. You know, some patients get gastrostomy tubes, and then they get a Foley catheter going, then they're on nebulizer treatments, and they're bedridden, and they need to be changed, and they become a 24/7 care person. It's important to know whether that's something that you can do. And if you reach the point where you can't do it, you need to be able to say to yourself, this is too much for me, have a family meeting, and make the next moves of change or plans. Maybe you're not physically able to turn someone in bed. You're either overweight, or you have your own blood pressure problems, or you're just older and it's difficult to do. So are you going to be able to do that? Are you somebody who has unhealthy coping skills? Some people just don't see the glass half full, and this is just too much for them, and you need to see yourself for who you are and be honest with yourself. If you're neglecting self-care, you're going to burn out, and we'll go over that because self-care is massive for all of us, but it's also specifically massive for the caregiver. Lack of respite care. You need to have a break. You need to have a break, and we'll go over that too. And the duration of caregiving. You could be taking care of somebody for 15, 20 years for all you know, and that's a long time to be caregiving. And if you're living with a spouse who doesn't speak and they're with you, it could be pretty isolating. So it's important to think about all these things. So those things are what can cause caregiver burnout. What I really want to go over with you is ways to reduce the stress. A couple things I want to say from my observations of working in the home for many years is that some patients were at home with a live-in aide. And this one particular one stood out because she was from Jamaica, and she had two small children, and they Skyped every week to say hello to their mom. They were being taken care of by her sister in Jamaica, and she was sending money home to help the family by living in America for 5 years, taking care of this woman who didn't speak, needed 24-hour care. She was overweight, and she'd be on her phone most of the day. And one day I said to her, Dominique, why aren't you like online learning to be a nurse, or learning a musical instrument, or learning nutrition, or anything you want, and I can help you lose weight and do exercises, so that when you get home, you're a better person for all this time you've spent there. So it's something to think about. Of course, you got to take care of the person, but if they're sleeping, and you're sitting there and you don't need to sleep yet, then maybe you should do something to improve your situation for this time that you're there. It's important to take a break. It's important to know, like, let's say you had to go to the grocery store and your family member's there. Walk around the parking lot, wear your sneakers. After you go grocery shopping and mom is in your home with your other relative, take a little time for yourself. Call a friend up on the phone and take a 10-minute walk. And maybe later on in the day, you could do the same thing. Just so you have breaks. You need to have breaks. I'm going to be giving you a site on my Facebook page, and this really great brochure, I don't know how old it is Taking Care of Yourself from the Alzheimer's Association. And I'll get you some information on this, but I'm going to read to you from this because I think, you know, dealing with people with more mental issues or depression or abusive behavior can be a really big toll emotionally on you as the caregiver. It's almost a thankless job, and you have to see it for what it is. You love the person dearly, but it's just wearing you out mentally, emotionally, and physically. And you've got to find the oxygen mask. You've got to find a way to get your networks going so you find peace here. Perfect example in my book is my friend Jinx, who I took care of her husband for over 9 years, and he had Alzheimer's, and he progressed to the point where she had to Hoyer lift him in bed. He was overweight. She had to get someone to move in to help her. She made sure she joined a support group, which were mostly women. And the support group wasn't a place to just pity party, so to speak. It was a real networking help group that gave each other solutions for problems that they were all facing one by one. And the beauty of this group was once a week they met for lunch outside the group. And 4 or 5 of the women became their husbands became my patients as well. And I watched them develop this sisterhood, this really wonderful relationship where even now, all but one has died, the husband, and they still keep in touch. And they're really great to watch how they interact, and they really get each other's back, and they're still in touch. And they met from the Alzheimer's Association, going to a weekly meeting with a social worker for support and networking. Because, you know, sometimes you don't keep the same friends. Your friends and your neighbors know you're taking care of somebody, and they start to dwindle sometimes if they don't understand that you don't have time for them. You know, maybe your friend could come over and have a cup of coffee with you while your husband's sleeping, but sometimes you think that they don't really quite understand, you know, what you're going through. And unless they're going through it themselves, like this group of women did, you're just not walking in the same shoes, and you just don't empathize and get it. So it's really important to know, is it worth keeping that friend right now? Because you may need to make new friends that are in the same boat as you. While you're home, there are lots of training courses. You can learn a lot of things online. You know, I have this YouTube channel, and I did this because many people are at home. We have social media, and there's ways of learning things that you may not get from your doctor's office that may be clearer from somebody who actually is in your shoes, like the house calls people like me. Taking care of your own health. Oh man, that is so big. You know, just like the man I told you about that had the stroke, if you're on blood pressure medicine or you need to get a mammogram or whatever, you need to take care of those things, because God forbid you develop breast cancer just because you stopped going because you didn't take care. You know, I worry about some of my patients so much, and some of them say to me that the caregivers, I'm afraid of what they'll find out. It's like they're afraid that if they find out they have a terminal or very bad medical problem, what's going to happen to the person they're taking care of. Scary, but it's better to be on top of it. Again, crisis prevention is key. So I have one lecture on dental care. We're talking about getting some exercise. Losing weight is really big, and we're going to talk about some things we can do to help you with that at the end. And managing your own stress. You know, you can listen to really nice spa music. You can do something called ASMR, which I just learned about, which is I do have a video on my YouTube for anxiety and panic. And it's using a nebulizer with white noise, and it's very relaxing. And if you find you just need to chill, you can always listen to that one on my YouTube channel, Caregiver Success. Making legal decisions. This is massive. You know, maybe you don't want to be the power of attorney, but maybe one of your family members is better, and maybe somebody else is better at taking care of the medications. If you have brothers and sisters, have that family meeting, divvy up the duties so that you don't feel like you're in this yourself. And if it's possible, it'd be great if you could go away on vacation and mom goes and stays with one of your sisters or brothers. It helps everyone to see what it's like to take care of mom or dad so that everybody's empathetic about it. Eating right, massive thing for all of us anyway. Making sure you're drinking enough fluids, making sure that you're eating breakfast, if you can get enough sleep. Even if you've tucked out in bed at 8 o'clock and you say, man, I got laundry to do, I've got this and that, you could do a few things. Turn off the TV, use your bedroom as an oasis for peace. Do not look at your phone, do not look at TV. Relax and read a book. Maybe read the Bible or meditate or something that makes you feel peaceful so that you could fall asleep. Of course, if you have to have a monitor or something, put it in the room but not right next to you so you don't hear stirring of sheets or the person talking, because it's just going to keep you awake. And we talked about friends, peaceful time. You know, walking in the woods is really great. If you got 10 minutes and somebody's over, just get out of the house if you can and just go someplace peaceful and just sit. And we talk about self-growth. That's really important. There's also something you could do if you do go to work, is look into getting the Family Leave Act, which is the Family Medical Leave Act, which is FMLA, which you're allowed by law to have. Your healthcare practitioner could fill it out. It's ready to go. So if mom lands up in the hospital and you need to be there for her, that you're allowed to leave work and you will, by law, not lose your job. Kind of important, because sometimes people are worried that if they take off from work that they're going to lose their job. But this act is a federal act, and it allows you to find that peace of mind. Self-growth is massive. We talked about that. And keeping your identity is also important. You know, you don't want to lose that. You know, I remember visiting one of my patients. She needed her hair cut. She didn't see her friends anymore. She gained a lot of weight. She no longer worked. I can see that she was giving 24/7 care to this person, and she was losing her own identity. She stopped painting. She stopped knitting. She stopped doing things that she liked to do. And the thing that happens is when the person, God forbid, passes away, who are you? What have you become? And did you grow with this experience? What are you left with? Will you be able to go back to work if you're younger? Will you have a profession there that will take you back? Are you up with the times? And so I just want to make sure you think about all of that. Exercising, stretching. Watch a yoga video. You could just do that on your TV or on YouTube and just stretch before your day begins so that you don't hurt yourself, so that you have good body mechanics. Also, being on good nutraceuticals is important as well. Vitamin D3, a multivitamin for over 50, something to take care of your eyes, etc. If you're looking into any kind of nutraceuticals, I have some great isotonic stuff I could talk to you about. It's a nancythenp, which is nurse practitioner for NP, nancythenp@gmail.com. You can email me and I'll tell you more about that. And let's see if there's anything else. We talked about sleep. We talked about the association. And one more thing that's important is I just want you to know that you're doing your best. If you're watching this video, you're thinking about ways to get through the day, get the answers you need, and support yourself with the tools that will help you. You know, if you're 70 or 80 and you're still living alone, you want to stay well. So I wrote this book called Caregiver Success. And I wrote this book because I knew that a lot of people were living longer, and you could be a caregiver for yourself. So if you have a 90-year-old mother living in Oklahoma and she's still taking care of herself, maybe get her this book. If she can still read, it's very big print. It's got lots of pictures about how to prevent bed sores, skin tears, how to wear proper shoes, how to find support out there. You definitely want to call the office for aging. And this book can be found on Amazon. It's also in an ebook form. So if you want to have one for yourself while you send one to your mom somewhere else, it'd be great. Or you can go on my page called caregiversuccess.com and order the book. Okay, so it was really nice to be here with you today. I hope this helped you know that you're doing the best you can. You could do it. You're a great caregiver. Till the next time, from Nancy the Nurse Practitioner, stay well.